Hi guys, and welcome to today's video where I am going to be answering some of your guys' questions that are all really based on transgender issues. But before we get into that, I do have some stuff to address. I don't know if it's been too long. I really can't tell, but I obviously have not been super active. This is like, I don't know, it's been like a week, at least mentally, since I've really been in front of a camera, and it feels very weird. It feels really weird. For those of you who don't know, I kind of posted on my Twitter and I addressed it a little bit, but recently I had someone kind of violate my personal information. Basically, someone stalked my family and found a lot of my old information, including my dead name, and decided to blackmail me, basically, about it. And after that kind of happened, I was forced to kind of take it into my own hands and leak it myself. And it was just a very emotionally straining situation, and I did not bounce back for a couple days. So I'm obviously better now because I'm sitting here and I'm able to make a video again, which I was very excited to because I need to and I miss doing it. I'm doing much better and I'm not going to let that tear me down. I thought that I could take that negative energy and turn it into something positive where I help you guys, trans or not, kind of navigate the world of trans issues and info. Even though, you know, I'm not every trans person, I don't know everything, but let's just get right into it. So I asked you guys on Instagram, Twitter, I asked you on everything. I really wanted questions. Okay, so the first question that I have right here is, how many surgeries do you have to get? Some trans people genuinely don't even get surgery. They just feel like some people may just need social transition or a name change. It really just depends person to person. But for me, I'm thinking 2 or 3 for myself. I actually today just worked on the first kind of steps to really get myself to be able to get facial feminization surgery, which is so cool because I work at Starbucks and they are very, very good with covering surgeries. So I am taking the first steps to really getting that covered and really getting that out of the way today. So I was very happy about that. And the other one would be gender reassignment surgery. And then the other one that I'm possibly considering is voice. I don't know. That one's a really risky surgery, but we'll see. Who is your favorite trans icon? I have a lot, I think. One that really has resonated with me a lot lately was Josie Tota. I watched her in, what was it called? Saved by the Bell. There's this reboot on this platform called Peacock, and the show is on there. So good. She is such a talented actress, and she really inspires me. Okay, one of the ones I had is talk about sexuality being different than gender. And this one is something that I actually am like, it makes so much sense to me, but like, it shocks me that it doesn't to other people. But like, sexuality and gender are very different. Because it's like, a sexuality is who you're attracted to, and identity is who you feel you are. So, I mean, when you kind of say it like that, for me, I'm just kind of like, those two aren't the same thing. It's about yourself versus other people. So if someone is a trans female, they may not like men. And if someone is a trans guy, they may like guys. Like, it's very, sexuality is fluid. I have a lot here. I'll do a little rapid fire because one of my good friends asked a couple. So how did you know you were trans? Basically, I was in college in my freshman year, and I was just vibing, thinking that I was living my best life. And what happened was my grandmother passed away, and she was a person that I used to dress up as a girl a lot around when I was a kid. I would always put like a towel on my head and pretend it was hair, like very that. And when she died, I kind of just went through a little crisis because I was like, oh my gosh, well, like the one person that I've like kind of been super authentic to has passed away. What if that means that I'm not living my life authentically for myself now? And here we are. Now I am an out and proud trans woman. Yeah, that's basically how I like made that connection. But it took me, I would say, a couple months to really settle in with the identity. How did the people around you react when you came out? How did you deal with the people in your life who weren't so supportive? This is a fun one. Basically, when I first posted it, I think a lot of people were very like, they wanted to be supportive, but I think a lot of it was very performative. I hate to say it, but I know a lot of people like would have supported me through and through, and I love that. But it showed that like after that, when it came to actually like being friends with the trans person, they weren't there. They were just there for the coming out. So people who, the best advice that I can give is people who aren't supportive will usually just remove themselves from your life anyways. But if they're willing to stay, and even if they're being like, I don't know, kind of ignorant with you, but if they're willing to like, you know, talk to you about it, it's at least worth a shot, kind of like trying to make it work and seeing like, where is this person coming from and how can I explain it to kind of get my story to them easier so they can understand. But people who are not worth fixing will remove themselves from your life automatically. I think the best thing that you could do is move on and realize that there are going to be other people that will absolutely treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. How did I choose my name? Yeah, so I really loved Shake It Up as a kid. I really loved Shake It Up. I loved Bella Thorne, I loved Cece Jones, and I wanted to be her. I absolutely wanted to be her. So when it came to me kind of like picking my name, what actually happened is I didn't really get to pick my first name. My parents were kind of just like, you know, adjusting to the whole thing, and they wanted me to kind of go with like a shortened version of my dead name. And I just was kind of like, okay, I'll try it out. And then when it didn't work, I was like, I need to pick it because like I need to have the control. Like I need to be in control of my life after not being in control of myself for so long and kind of just going with it. And they understood and we moved on. And now I'm Bella. So that is basically how I picked it. This is a really, really deep one, but do you need dysphoria to be transgender? What is your take on it? If you want to know my opinion is that I actually do not think I have one. Because, I don't know, there's like a mixed side to it, if I had to say. Because I think that the people who are very like, you need this to be trans because they think that it'll like help people, you know, make that connection, that that's like what makes us trans, aren't doing very good for the community. Because, I mean, yelling at someone when they're freshly out saying you need to have this to be who you are, when they're still figuring stuff out, is not helpful at all. It's actually probably going to just make them feel like they need to force it or fake it. And that's just like not letting them figure stuff out on their own. So I just feel like you really cannot say because you don't know how each person operates. You don't know how each person experiences gender. I want to hear about when you wanted to transition. This one for me, I had like a rough like connection with transitioning when I first came out because it was scary. I've lived my life this way for so long and I don't really know how to navigate it. I think I truly realized that I wanted to transition when I stopped caring about other people. There were so many times where I was like, you know, in college and I was just so insecure and I was being fed the story by all those people who were like, you need dysphoria to be trans. And I was like trying to like put myself in this like spot to be like, oh, I want the surgery, I want that. I don't actually feel like I want it, but I want it because I'm being told that I need to have it. And now that I just kind of like chilled out and just like stopped caring so much about like having to fit into this perfect cookie cutter example of a trans person, I realized that I had nothing to worry about. Like I didn't have to worry about like, oh, what if you don't want surgery? That means you're not going to be acceptable. It's like, no, I do, but I didn't need to force it to get there. So I would say I knew about, it was probably about 2 months on hormones. That sounds really bad, but it was just like, fun story, fun little thing. I have OCD. And it affects me in almost entirely a mental way, which very much encompasses kind of just obsessing over possibilities, and like the idea of things like being not what I think they are is like really scary. So for me, my mind was like constantly latching on to like new identities and being like, well, what if you're this? What if you're not trans? What if you're actually this? What if you are just lying and you're actually still cis and this is just a phase? And it was just so much in my mind that I was like becoming this like ball of hate where I was like, I need to hate everyone that isn't trying to fit this perfect cookie cutter of a trans person. And it took me a really long time to kind of just like get diagnosed with OCD, because before that I didn't even know I had it. So I was like fighting a unknown battle. It really took me feeling secure in my identity is what it took for me to realize that I wanted to transition. As much as I started transitioning almost as soon as I came out, it really is like different than like actually physically choosing to be set on a transition path for yourself. Yeah, I hope that made sense. I don't know if I like rambled with that, and I don't know if it like was super uninteresting, but that's basically it. I've always wondered how the bathroom policy worked. Bathroom policy, I don't even know if that would be like the correct terminology for it, but no, like I totally get what you're saying. I would say, I honestly can't really speak for every trans person, but for me, I use the women's restroom. Surprise. Is that what you've all been wanting? It's where I fit in. It's where cause like I feel like, think about it. Maybe I'm about to like shoot myself in the leg and you're gonna be like, yeah, no, you would totally belong in the men's room. But like, if you saw me at like Applebee's and I like walked into the men's restroom, like, would you not just be like, huh? Like, I'd like to think that that's the scenario. But another thing that I know is very helpful is the introduction of gender neutral bathrooms, because that has always made me feel very comfortable with it, because then I don't really have to like interact. Especially early in transition, I was like very a fan of gender neutral bathrooms because I didn't have to worry about other people judging me. So do hormones have to be taken indefinitely, or does the body eventually get with the program? I have to take a pill for the rest of my life to remain a beautiful woman. But yeah, so I basically have to take it for the rest of my life because my body does not produce the amount of estrogen that a cis female does. So I have to do it myself. What's the one thing you'd want non-trans allies to know or do? If you are a trans ally and you are hearing this right now and you support me, you support trans people, you support non-binary people, you support anyone on the gender spectrum, vocalize it. Say it with your whole chest. Like, that is what I think that would make so many people just feel so validated. That's basically the best way that I can put it, because I feel like a lot of people are just so, oh yes, I totally support you to your face, but when it comes to a black trans woman being murdered, it's crickets. It just seems like so many people think that activism just stops at like being friends with a trans person, and I just think that it's so much more than that. If you're gonna be a trans ally, just let people know that. If you have the privilege to be able to, you know, stand up for trans people, then do it. Vocalize it. Have I ever experienced transphobia in the public? Yes. I actually haven't experienced too much, even when I was at college and I did not pass as well as I do now. I didn't experience transphobia because no one talked to me. But now that I'm out in the working world and there are people who are anti-maskers, yeah, I did have one time at work where a man, anti-masker, came up, and then basically when I was taking his order, even after we were like, please put on a mask, he, you know, decided to say, you look like a woman, but you sound like a man, just straight up to me. And I did not take his order. That is like the most that it's ever been. I mean, at work I still get, you know, thank you, sir. But I don't think that's like outwardly transphobic. It's just people, I don't know, probably hearing me and saying, that's a man. But that's okay. It's not. But it's okay for now. If you could give one piece of advice to all trans or LGBTQ youth, what would it be? That is like a really difficult one because that's like a lot of ground. Do things for yourself. When it comes to being you and discovering your identity, don't do any of those steps self-discovery for anyone except for yourself. If you start living for other people, you're not living your life. If you could go back and say one thing to your past self, what would you say? In a sort of comedic sense, I would be like, haha, you really thought you were done coming out. But in a more endearing way, I guess I would say, it'll all make sense soon. All the things that don't feel complete and feel empty to you now will make sense absolutely later. Don't be too hard on yourself, even though you will. How do you deal with people who happen to not support you? Does it ever affect you mentally or physically? This is kind of like built off of the other one that I had, but at the beginning it could be so difficult to talk to people about this kind of stuff because a lot of the time when you come out, they're gonna like take it as a personal attack rather than like think about this is the best thing for you. They're gonna see it more as like, why didn't you tell us? Why was I not informed on this? Why did you hide it from us? Like very that. And so people, it gets very exhausting to kind of deal with it and be like, well, if I would have been confident enough to say it, then I would have, but I wasn't, and now I am. But people who just straight up don't support me, I'm like, okay, block me. Bye. Were there any unexpected moments in your transition that no one told you about beforehand? I don't know if this is just self-confidence. I don't think it was entirely a transition, but I'm very outspoken now, and I never used to be like that. I was always a person where it's like, if I saw someone doing something wrong, I would never speak up because I was always like, I don't want people to hate me. Like, I want people to approve of me. So like, the last thing that I'm gonna do is speak out against a popular yet ignorant opinion because then it'll, you know, it'll make me more of a social outcast. That has completely changed to me, and I am very much a person where it's like, I'm just more willing to fight for myself. Do you think there is enough positive trans representation in the media? No. I think that a lot of media in the past has just really, really messed up the portrayal of trans people to where people kind of have viewed us as like a joke. In the media, oh, a man in a dress, that is comedy gold for some reason. Here is the final question. Do you know if it's a good idea to come out to a family if you don't know if they're against LGBTQ+ or not? Some of my friends are scared to come out. This is such a difficult like thing because I obviously can't like gauge each and every person's like situation at home. I've had a lot of really good stories where there are parents who have been, you know, very religious and very against LGBTQ, but once their kid was like, well, I'm part of that community, they have kind of just like had a mental switch and kind of been like, okay, well, now this affects me. I have to educate myself about it. It really depends. I guess just like, you absolutely have to keep your safety in mind, but if you know that your relationship is at the point where like your parents would love you regardless and be willing to educate themselves, if they seem like those kind of people, then I think that maybe it would be a good thing to try to come out to them. But, you know, like I said, it's very risky, and it's sad that it's risky. It's sad that there are parents out there who will disown their kids for being LGBTQ, because it's just like, if you're not gonna love your kid no matter who they are, then you shouldn't be having kids. Coming out really does help a lot with like your personal identity, because you're not hiding anymore. So whatever is best for you, do your best to keep yourself safe, and don't force yourself to do something you aren't ready to do. Take your time, and you'll get there when you get there. Alright, so I really hope that that little Q&A was a good little moment of education and information about me, and as much about the trans community that I could really give. I really enjoyed that. I thought that it was something that I've been wanting to do for a while, because, you know, as a trans woman with a platform, I wanted to try to help normalize it, especially with my supporters and fans, because maybe I'm the first trans person that these people are seeing. It's really important that I have videos like this, so let me know if you guys want to see more, because I think these videos are very fun, even though, you know, I do love some Roblox. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!